have been worse.
We're going live and I'm letting everyone know.
Thank you.
There's several files that were behind one Friday. One would like.
Should we get started?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you can see, we have our beloved leader book here remotely recovering from our favorite virus. And she wanted to make herself available. There are a lot of important bills that are coming up this week that we know are not in the best interest of Florida citizens. So she's going to talk through a couple of those and then we'll open it up for questions. Leader book.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I wish that I was at the Capitol fighting today in appropriations and every day. But since I was diagnosed Thursday, today is my 5th day. So I'll be back tomorrow ready to go. But anytime you can share something like COVID with the Queen, I guess I'm in good company. But look forward to being back tomorrow with my colleagues. Today is going to be a long day. This is going to be a long week. We've got a lot of bills out there today, particularly in appropriations, the abortion bill, as well as the immigration bill 1808. A little bit on abortion first. I first want to also thank my colleagues who are going to be there, Pro Tem Powell, Chair Pizzo, Senator Gibson, Senator Stewart, Senator Rousson, who are going to be there fighting. I just want to give them, all of the positive fight that they have. But really, you're going to see a couple of amendments coming up from my colleagues. The Pro Tem will be introducing my amendment on rape, incest, and human trafficking, an exemption there. You'll find Senator Stewart, I believe, working on an amendment to reduce the doctors to 2, from 2 doctors to certify a fetal anomaly. And then Senator Gibson will be working on one for the judicial bypass. Again, this is the House bill that's come over. It'll be some of our members' first opportunity to see this bill. Look, at the end of the day, this is not a good bill for women. It limits reproductive freedom, right to choose, and autonomy. Again, I want to continue to fight to make sure that there is an exemption for rape, incest, and human trafficking. And I would suggest that I know that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle probably view rape, incest, or a pregnancy as the same. But we know survivors of rape, incest, and human trafficking are having to deal with a tremendous amount of trauma and need a little bit more time. In the closing remarks of the House sponsor, I noticed a lot of, a weaponizing of pro-choice and putting the onus on women to take responsibility. I believe it was the direct quote for her sexual activity. And what if that choice was never made? Again, if an 11-year-old girl was being raped by her stepfather every day, there's a 75% chance that she won't tell anyone for more than a year. We know that it takes a long time for survivors of sexual assault to share the things that have happened to them. Why is she being punished and put on a clock to make decisions when she's having a hard time even parsing apart the things that happened to her? Again, a really bad, dangerous bill for Floridians, one that we're going to continue to fight against. And again, my colleagues, I know, come to it where, whether it was rape, incest, human trafficking, or a planned pregnancy, all of that is life to them. And I think that it's not about, getting them to see things philosophically from a different perspective, but really allowing a survivor a little bit of grace and more time to make that decision. Again, working on some of the, sorry, some of the other implications of the bill for rural and urban communities, even in urban communities, removing that 2-physician requirement and some of the judicial bypass piece of things. My office has spent an inordinate amount of time calling different places throughout the state to figure out what is the actual timeline for a judicial bypass. And in different locations across the state, we've got answers like, we don't know what to tell you, call the Bar Association, you're on your own, kid. And those were some of the answers that that young people get throughout the state. And those are things that really, when you're on a time clock and having to make decisions like this, really do put undue burden, stress on a child and an individual seeking this type of reproductive health care. And so I'm going to continue to fight that. We've got an immigration bill that's coming up again, really a dangerous bill, again, putting children at risk. Senator Torres this week will have more than 150 members of the clergy to come up to speak about this proposal on Thursday. Obviously, in recent months, Governor DeSantis has directed state regulators to crack down on shelters that house unaccompanied minors in Florida. He's now asked the legislature to bar state contracts with companies that transport immigrants, including children, into the state on behalf of the federal government. This is a dangerous piece of legislation that's putting children at risk. Again, one that we're going to continue to fight today. Later on in the week, you're going to have the Don't Say Gay bill, Senate Bill 1834 up, which really is going to put children in a dangerous position, educators and families alike. And so it's a really rough week, one that I wish that I was there today fighting for. But, as we continue down this path, we know that there's going to be some challenges coming up ahead, and we're going to fight them as best that we can. And I have time for any questions that anybody may have. Not all at once. No questions. Mary Ellen?
Question if you guys
Sure.
have a moment.
Yes, right ahead.
Leader, I'm curious what the next steps will be, because we know that, the GOP majority obviously has resisted any changes to the 15-week abortion ban at this point. And it doesn't really look like they're going to have any give. At least they haven't suggested that as we move forward. So if this does get through its next committee, which it is expected to do, and it does get through the floor and it moves on to the governor, what are the next steps after that? Because I know there are a lot of concerns that this does conflict with obviously Roe v. Wade, but also Florida's privacy laws. So, what should we expect as we move forward? Are you urging voters to take note of this as we move into the election cycle? Do we expect court challenges? What are the next steps?
I think that's a really good question. And, while I will never give up on a fight, we have some of our Republican colleagues expressing, I think to Glenna Milberg last week, that she would like to see an exemption for rape and incest, and Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez. And I think that given the opportunity for people to vote their conscience, I believe that Floridians, regardless of their party, believe that there should be additional time for a survivor of rape, incest, or human trafficking, more time to decide and make a decision like this. That being said, though, I'm not under the delusion that this is a bill that's not going to pass or be changed and be signed into law by the governor. I think that it is then incumbent, yes, on Floridians to pay attention to the people who put us in this situation. We are marching towards a post-Roe world, which is terrifying to me as somebody who is a staunch advocate for women's reproductive health care, for me, for everyone, for my daughter. But I do think that we also have to take some responsibility in looking at the totality of the system. And one of the things, while we talked about the judicial bypass, my office and I have spent an inordinate amount of time since the last committee stop looking at the judicial bypass process in the state to understand what it means for a young individual to try to navigate a system. And that is complicated, complex, difficult, and unfair. And I think that we all need to do more to arm young women with the knowledge of what to do next, what to do, how to make decisions, and be more proactive. go on the offense when it comes to crisis pregnancy centers. These are pieces and parts that we've always traditionally fought against. But it will definitely be a more concerted effort considering we've now chipped away at a woman's right to choose and ban something that, is extremely dangerous. And so I'm not under the, belief that this is something that we're going to stop. Of course, we're not. It will be signed into law. Hopefully we can get that exemption. Not sure that we'll be able to, but then it becomes how do we continue to fight to educate women and girls, and what can we do to make sure that they have any and all the information that they do need to make decisions, and cut out the, pardon my French, the crap that makes it more difficult for them to receive the health care that they need. Mary Ellen?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I'm glad you're feeling okay. It's no fun. I wanted to just kind of look at big picture a little bit. The Senate Democrats have a little bit more leverage than the House Democrats on some of these things. And the Senate Democrats this session have gone along with some of leadership's priorities on a couple of things. And I guess I wanted to get a sense of how you, when it comes to this issue, for example, do you think that you can use your leverage to get some modifications in some of these bills? You mentioned the exception for rape and incest. Is that something where you are actively working to try and find a different approach than the way the House has gone, so that there is some friction on some of these bills that are a priority for the GOP?
It's a really good question, Mary Ellen, and we've been working for weeks and weeks and weeks on some of these different pieces of legislation. I believe that the Senate, and we talked about this last week before I left, and you gave me a knowing smile, but I do believe that the Florida Senate is a more deliberative body. And I think, it has typically been the place where bad bills go to die, right? Clearly, not as many of those really bad bills have died that we would have preferred. But I do believe that it is a process, and we've been working for quite some time, not just on the abortion bill, but the Don't Say Gay bill and 1808. And, Senator Jones and others have taken it on, Senator Berman, Senator Polsky, myself, Senator Pizzo, all have really taken different areas of the world that are meaningful to them and worked really hard to have those conversations with leadership. And I think that, this is one, the abortion bill, that I'm not sure that we're going to get the exemption, but I know that there are members that have expressed a want, wish, and desire to see an exemption like that. Again, we continue to chip away at it. I'm not sure that we're going to get it on that. On some of these other policy bills, there have been some conversations about change in the first committee stop for 1834. There was discussion. The president designate shared things that she had concerns about and things that needed to be changed in that piece of legislation. I think that I saw, through the COVID fog this weekend, some things that on Twitter, not necessarily things that make the bill any better, but we're going to continue to do that. It's a process. And we are outnumbered. We continue to fight. And I think, one of my favorite, my leaders who have just taught me a tremendous amount was Senator Brannan. And he talked about how sometimes you just can't make it easy, and that's your leverage. And so I think that you're going to find in the next committee stops, all of us engaging in difficult questions, really pressing the policy, because we are the deliberative body and we point out the things that are wrong, and we continue to do so. We have to be better. We have to be stronger. We have to be more strategic in the way that we do those things. And I think that you're going to find a caucus in the next, during these next couple of weeks that are really on some of these really bad pieces of legislation, working very hard to poke holes, cut out crap, and trying to make it different. Now, if that doesn't change, then, to force comment about after the fact, we start and we point out the things that happened under this regime.
Are there any more questions? All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Oh.
Oh,
I've got
Lauren?
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Not
Hey,
allowed.
thanks, Jeff. Hey, Senator, just want to ask about one of the other hot button bills this year is the voting bill. And I'm curious if you're expecting that to come up this week as well.
I hope not. I can't handle any. I say that like, I hope not, because I don't know that I can survive it. No, but I do think that there's, some things that are going to come up this week that aren't so good. Obviously, we're staring today at abortion and the immigration bill. I'm sure that we're going to see 1834. There's that net metering bill still out there. The election bill you're pointing out. We still have the appointment of the Surgeon General to decide on the floor of the Senate as well. And so there are those pieces and parts that are still out there. I'm hopeful that we're looking at the totality of the universe of what's bad, but we know that we're in week, 7 or 8? So we've got 18 more days to go. So basically we're in hell week until Sine Die. Sorry. Pretty shitty.
That
No,
was very
thanks.
optimistic.
I know. It's like,
So, hey, Senator Bush,
Hey.
if I can follow on what Lawrence was saying, and forgive me, I jumped on late. I was,
No, okay.
but I kind of am curious to know whether you feel like this is, a worse session than we've seen in previous sessions. We had bills last session that were considered to be anti-LGBTQ and so forth. But here we've got, a bill that's being presented as parental rights that's also being dubbed Don't Say Gay. We have a bill that's being presented as parental rights that's also Stop Woke.
Yeah.
The voting stuff. I think there's other things that are being couched as parental rights bills too. And it just, is this like one of the worst sessions you've seen as far as, the values that you espouse clashing with the values of the Republicans, or Republicans trying to undermine, the rights of other citizens that may not be in the majority? I mean, and I'm saying that so that I'd like to give you options of how you enhance this.
I think that's a really great question, Jeff. And I think part of it is yes, no, yes, no, and on so many fronts, right? Like we sit and we look at, every last session, for example, it was, the, trans ban on sports. There was bad stuff. Like there's always a bad elections bill. And it was not good. Like all just, bad stuff. But it's like stuff. And I think this year, this is all very personal and it feels personal. And I know it's not coming from a mean-spirited place, because I don't believe that my colleagues are trying to pass legislation that is mean in spirit. But I do believe that this is probably one of the worst sessions that I've seen, where we're taking issues that are going to deeply, deeply affect Floridians. I believe, and I know that all of my colleagues come to Tallahassee to represent, their portion of the world, and 22 million Floridians deserve better than what we're doing. We talked about, and it was, it affected 11 trans athletes last session. A bill like 1834, Don't Say Gay, will affect untold children, families, teachers, the abortion ban, similarly, the elections bill, the immigration bill, all the CRT, all of it, but really terrible for Floridians, painful consequences. I think about when I was a kindergarten teacher, and, we always did, when kids start in school, it's, your place in the universe, your place in the world. And so one of the activities that we always did was have them draw themselves in a family. And who is their family? And what does their family look like? We're now putting teachers and putting government in between a teacher and her students, making it so that child is different than everyone else, that family structure is inherently strange and we can't talk about it. That is dangerous. That is bad. That is wrong. Telling survivors of rape, incest, and human trafficking that you have no more time to make a decision about a life-altering pregnancy, even though you are a victim of sexual assault. It has nothing to do with your choice, your decision to engage in sexual activities, as the House sponsor we talked about said. Choice was taken from you, and government is choosing to continue to take that choice. It's as though we're pandering to the religious right, which is neither religious nor right. It's terrible. It's a terrible session. I think it's very dangerous for Floridians. And again, what do Floridians care about? Making sure they have gas money to get to work, making sure they can put dinner on the table, making sure they have a place to live. Those aren't the things that we're focusing on to make their life better. I mean, our colleagues have a lot of different bills that work to address needs of our constituency, whether it's Senator Torres working on the nursing shortage, when it comes to ensuring that if you're a veteran, you can come back and practice and be a nurse in state by removing some requirements, because you're able to do it in the service, but you're not able to do it here in Florida. And we have a shortage that is extremely dangerous. Senator, I'm sorry, I have a COVID brain a little bit. Senator Cruz, who has a bill on insulin to make sure that families can afford medications that they need. These are the things that Floridians care about. These are the things that they need us here fighting for, not making children feel bullied in a place and in a time where we've worked so hard to make sure that children feel included. So you can't talk about their two moms and their two dads. Let's not forget, we just came off of the anniversary of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And it makes me think about the drills and all of the conversations that we had about safety drills. And, we're okay in a world and in a place and in time, correctly so. It was a piece of policy that I advocated for, that children know how to protect themselves, that we have safe corners in classrooms, to, everything that we need to do to protect them in schools. But we're a bridge too far because we don't want to talk about two moms and two dads. What the hell are we doing? We can do better than this, and we need to do better than this. So yes, it's the worst it's ever been. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, last question. All right. Well,
right, everybody.
Peter,
I'll
feel
see you all
better.
tomorrow.
We are praying for your swift recovery.
Thanks, guys.